Hello, my friends. So today I'm gonna talk about black magic. Yes. And that's oftentimes maybe a label people use who don't practice magic, I think. I think that's more common anyways, by those who don't use any kind of magic. Because they don't really know what that is, probably. And may derive from fears. You know all these things, Inquisition, and you know witch hunts, and which still goes on in some way or another, times and places. But yeah, that have been the way for many who use these skills, if you say, and this craft of magic, to incorporate that into everyday life and everyday doings, so that it wouldn't really be seen, although it was just in front of you. So I mean, to do magic, you really don't need to do much mysterious things. You can make it work for you anyways. But yeah, but that's the reason, I think, why that have been more hidden. And still, as you know, there are those who have a lot of fears and all kinds of reasons for being against that. I don't know. So it's not always easy to practice any kind of magic, because that is considered evil in some people's minds or eyes. But one thing I want to read is from a book that is called The Seed of the Soul, that I love. And it is written by Gary Zukov. I don't know if you've heard about him. I'll see if it says something about him. Well, anyways, he's a graduate of Harvard University. He was like a, what are they called? Sort of scientist with, do you say physics really? I think that, I try to translate from Swedish now what I know, but anyways. And he, through his science, the world that opened up to him through science really made him discover spirituality, because when he saw and figured out the things he did, he realized that something else must be at play here, sort of. He opened up his senses then. Oh, I just have to go and do something here. Sorry, or you don't even hear if I pause, but anyway. So I'm back. I'm still working this candle magic, and I need to fix some things there, so now and then. Anyway, so yeah, I don't necessarily agree with these things that are said here either. I just like to, I just like to share it, really. So I will begin with this then. And usually I forget my glasses, but we will see how it goes. We associate white with purity, goodness, and rightness. White is a symbol of positive and protective energy. We dress heroes and heroines in white. White represents wholeness of spirit. We associate God, God's messengers, and heaven with white. We picture angels in robes of white. We associate black with evil. We dress villains in black. Black is a symbol of destruction. When catastrophe strikes, we call it a black day. Black represents despair, anger, and rage, which are absence of love, compassion, and forgiveness. We say that a person who feels these things is in a black mood. We say the Dark Ages were a time when the light of reason was absent. We call the suffering of a splintered psyche, a psyche without radiance, the dark night of the soul. We call the devil the prince of darkness, and we think of hell as a place where the light of God does not reach. In this perception of white as an integration or completion, and black as an absence, therefore limited in accuracy or applicability to the physical phenomena of white light and blackness. What did I read now? Is the perception of white as an integration? Yeah. No, language, mythology, religion, and science each recognize in white a reflection of integration or wholeness or completion, and in black a reflection of the absence of this. The multisensory personality sees directly that each of these ways of understanding reflects the same thing. The multisensory personality sees divinity or God or divine intelligence or whatever word it chooses to use for this as light. It sees those through whom divinity flows consciously, such as the Christ, the Buddha, and Krishna, as beings of light, beings of wholeness, integration, and completeness. Therefore, it sees in the white of science a reflection in time and space and matter of the wholeness, integration, and perfection of timeless divinity. It sees evil, anger, despair, destruction, and rage as absence of light. Therefore, it sees in the black of science a reflection of the world of physical phenomena of incompleteness and of the absence of light. The multisensory personality sees the same relationships, each reflecting the same world wherever it looks. The five-sensory personality cannot see in this way, and therefore its logic and understandings are not as comprehensive. The nature of wholeness and the lack of it, and the effects of each, are not discernible through the study of physical phenomena to a personality that is not able to see that both physical phenomena and the relationships between them are simultaneously parts of and reflections of larger patterns of life. A personality that is not whole lives in a state of splinteredness, as represented by individual colors or combinations of them. A personality that is not splintered lives in a state of wholeness, as represented by white light. A personality that loses touch with its soul, that loses the source of its light, is a personality that has become capable of what we call evil, as represented by blackness. What we call evil is the absence of light, of love, in all cases. When we speak poetically of light, we associate it with purity, insight, and divine inspiration. As we shall see, this type of light is not merely poetical, it is real. A soul can find it difficult to walk the way of light through the course of an incarnation. It can find the learning to live in light, and the learning to live in light is a difficult sojourn. Through the choices that it makes while it is incarnate upon the earth, the choice of anger instead of forgiveness, for example, or condemnation instead of understanding, a soul accumulates negative karma, or heavy, I would say, as it leaves its body, it remains enveloped with the quality of light that it acquired through the choices that it made while it was upon the earth. When that soul has to create another personality, it will have to create a personality that is drawn from this well. Therefore, it will create a personality of more limited limitations. Limitedness, I was saying. A personality with limitations of consciousness will find what we call evil more attractive than will one with a more expanded awareness. The temptation to walk that way will be strong for such a personality. All souls are tempted, but an individual with limitations of consciousness will find it more attractive to walk into the magnetic field of fear, because it would not recognize fear for what it is. It would accept it as something else, as something that is normal to life. How we understand evil, therefore, is very significant. Evil needs to be understood for what it is, the dynamic of the absence of light. It is not something that one should prepare to battle, to run from, or to outlaw. Understanding evil as the absence of light automatically requires that we reach for this thing called light. Conscious light is equal to divinity, to divine intelligence. Where there is an absence of divine intelligence, that darkness itself maneuvers. It is simply that there is darkness and we stumble in the darkness. The existence in darkness is not permanent. Every soul will eventually be fully enlightened. A soul with no light will always come to know light, because there is so much assistance provided to each soul at all times. There is much light, as we shall see, that is continually surrounding such a soul, even though it may not be able to directly penetrate it, and there is much assistance for souls that insist upon living in darkness. The encouragement to take even one thought into light is always available. Eventually, they always do. Understanding that evil is the absence of light does not mean that it is inappropriate to respond to evil. What is the appropriate response to evil? The remedy for an absence is a presence. Evil is an absence, and therefore it cannot be healed with an absence. By hating evil, or one who is engaged in evil, you contribute to the absence of light and not to its presence. Hatred of evil does not diminish evil, it increases it. The absence of light causes the personalities to suffer. There is pain. When you hate, you bring that suffering upon yourself. Hatred of evil affects the one who hates. It makes him or herself, him or her, a hateful person, a person who has always absented himself or herself from light. Absented. Yeah. Understanding evil as the absence of light does not require you to become passive or to disregard evil actions or evil behavior. If you see a child being abused or people being oppressed, for example, it is appropriate that you do what you can to protect the child or to aid the people. But if there is no compassion in your heart, also for those who abuse and oppress, for those who have no compassion, do not become like them. Compassion is being moved to and by acts of the heart, to and by the energy of love. If you strike without compassion against the darkness, you yourself enter the darkness. Understanding that evil is the absence of light challenges the perception of power as external. Can an absence be defeated? An evil person can be arrested, but can evil be arrested? An evil group can be imprisoned, but can evil be imprisoned? A compassionate heart is more effective against evil than any army. An army can engage another army, but it cannot engage evil. A compassionate heart can engage evil directly. It can bring light where there was no light. Understanding evil as the absence of light requires you to examine the choices that you make each moment in terms of whether they move you toward light or away from it. It allows you to look with compassion upon those who engage in evil activities, even as you challenge their activities, and thus protects you from the creation of negative karma, or heavy karma maybe. It permits you to see that the place to begin the task of eliminating evil is within yourself. This is the appropriate response to evil. The higher order of logic and understanding that characterizes the multisensory human permits it to learn more quickly than the five-sensory human is able to learn from what its senses alone tell it, and what its intellect makes of that. We have evolved as far as the intellect will take us. We have explored the scope and depth of five-sensory reality, and we have discovered the limitations of external power. The next phase of our evolution will take us into the experiences of the multisensory human and the nature of authentic power. That requires the heart. Yeah. So, already if someone listened for a little while that are drawn to these kind of things will be mad at this moment, but yeah. The light of the soul and the what I want to say with this is that as symbols, it doesn't mean that, of course, sometimes that can be very healing, the dark, if you need to sleep, let's say. Or, I mean, there are many occasions, whatever, certain frequencies are needed. So, but for as a symbol and as, well, if you can see, for example, auras and the colors and so on, it's the clarity that shows health or ill health then, and so on. So the bright, shining light, whatever color it would have them. So I just want to start out with that for some reason. Since we were on the topic of darkness, I wanted to dive into this whole black magic, because it is like it's always present in the minds of people who come across magic, at least if you haven't engaged in magic yourself a lot, because then it's not as present to you probably, or not, at least not to me. And obviously my channel's name, Whispering Spirit, is related to all the things that I do working in between the worlds or in this other realm, also connecting with the other side, which also sometimes is considered evil. Even from, there are some New Agey people, which is really interesting to me, that there are like levels of judgments in various groups, of course. And those who work with, let's say, what they would call then higher or whatever light beings, and can sometimes be very fearful of the communication with ancestors and so on. As I perceive it as fear, but in their case they may just see it as probably as it's the right way to view things, I don't know. So that would be considered very low and dark and dangerous even for those who channel even, or so on. That's so interesting. That's so interesting. How can that be? I'm just amazed by that perception, but I'm amazed by a lot of things in this world. But anyways, there is one thing. I mean, I've thought about a lot of things here, so let's see if I can bring it down to slow pace and still keep some kind of focus and not fall asleep myself. Yeah, Voodoo is one of those practices that are feared, I guess, and let's say the general public would maybe connect it to voodoo dolls and evil magic. Then, if I would say, that's what many people mean when they say black magic, that you do it for an evil purpose, a negative purpose towards someone or something. And it's the same thing. If you who listen to this, if you still listen, probably you just don't if you were interested in black magic. But now I will let you know something that that person didn't get to know. That if they didn't already know, okay, I will stop talking like that, back and forth like that. That any energy work, any healing work you do, or voodoo, you can use it in any direction you want. Magic is only a neutral capacity or technique sometimes. And you use exactly the same methods if you want to perform healing spells, let's say, or healing towards someone or harm someone. Anyone who knows healing or work with energy healing or also knows how to do the other thing, even if they've never practiced it. And the better skill, the more skilled you are as a healer, the more capacity you have also to cause harm. And when it comes to voodoo, it's as far as I've learned, I'm not an expert in that I have I have one of my spirit guides is a voodoo priest from Haiti who came through to me and wanted to teach me about voodoo from the spirit realm. And his daughter is alive and his grandchildren is alive. I don't know her, but I know her name and she lives here in town. His daughter is Virginia and his grandchildren also lives here. And many in that tradition also on the other side really don't want outsiders to be taught these things sometimes, and that's still the case. But he is also pretty protective of me and have taught me a few things from that realm. I haven't been diving extremely deeply into it, but I love it. I'm very drawn to it, and to me that is also a loving practice, a communication with these forces of nature. And this, I think everything is animated by spirits, whether it's spiritual nature forces, so to speak. I think everything is conscious, and that we can communicate with it and honor it. As well as those who have passed on or other beings in other dimensions, let's say, and so on. But yeah. Anyways, so personally, I don't see it like that. I've talked about this before, but to me it's not like black or white. It's just magic. But still, I will talk in this video about black magic. And also this saying, I think sometimes there is a beautiful picture. I like those quotes oftentimes, comes up that like as if it's only those. I understand that it's actually the truth. I think that it's more what we expect to see that we see than what's really there in our everyday life, actually. If we see something that is far out, that is kind of impossible, we block it out with our conscious minds. We need to practice openness to be able to perceive things we didn't expect, honestly. I think so, but But it's often the saying that you need to believe to be able to experience magic and so on. But that's just, to me, it's a very fluffy idea. Although I understand that whole concept of perception and expectation go pretty much hand in hand also. We can, as we can project also things we expect and so on. But anyway, as I have experienced it, healing do have impact, and that is why you should let someone know. And it doesn't have anything to do if they believe it or not. Energy is factual. I mean, it's real, and the workings with energy is real, and it have impact. Sorry. Oh, I should have something to drink here. I can pause. I just realized. Oh, sorry, I must pause for a sec. So, sorry that I coughed, even though I could pause. I forgot. Anyway, so, yeah. If for example, someone is... I've mentioned this, I think, before, but if someone driving a car and you send healing to them at that moment, that can affect them. Even if it's Reiki. Reiki is, in other ways, pretty safe to use because it's built into that it blocks the energies from the person you heal to go to you, and from you to go to that person you heal. Is this universal energy intelligence that do its work, and also not towards you exactly direct it, although you're kind of a vessel, but it's really the person who needs it who draws that energy to them. So it's kind of very, it depends on how you work, but that's really safe in that sense to work with Reiki, because you cannot command the universal intelligence like that. It have its own will, you can say, its own consciousness that will heal, and so. But still, if you would send it, for example, if someone was driving a car, that can have an impact, which could be dangerous out in traffic. I mean, they can be affected by it, feel faint, or, I mean, even if it's not dangerous, the sensation they perceive, if they do perceive anything from it, it doesn't always happen, but still it is efficient, even so. But yeah, anyways. And then they could lose control of the car or anything. So that's why it's very important to tell people if you do healing for them, healing work, when you do it, so that they know. And if you are psychic, if you have a strong connection to the spirit realm and talk to them a lot or so, or if you are able to I was going to say cross country, but you say I always forget the words for things, but I mean journey, so that you see what the other person is up to, then you could know. Or if the spirits tell you that is cool at the time to give them healing, then if you know your spirit's guides well and know that the messages you get can be trusted and so on. So, but otherwise you should always make it very clear to the one you heal, because otherwise you can harm them really without any intent to do so. Your purpose with it can be so well-meaning and good, but still you can really harm. Yeah, and as I talked about also, my granddad, many know how to do this, but this come from way back in line. His mother and so on could do this as well. My mother's father and his mother, and back in line. And I got it when he passed over, to be able to stop blood flow. And of course, I think that is when I realized the strongest, that if I can stop blood flow, to me that is obvious that I could harm with it. I mean, you just have to think about it to understand that you could produce kind of a lot of harm to someone doing that as well, if it was not needed, if if they did not have a bleeding going on or whatever. And yeah, it's the same thing with energy anyways, but it was clearer then when it comes to blood. And I realized if I could stop someone's blood, I could obviously kill them with healing, so to speak, with energy. And I do think so. This sounds so horrible to say, but I do think so. Doesn't mean that I would. But I would believe that is what would be considered black magic then, if you did. But sending energy can harm also in other ways, because you feed, you nurture. You infuse. If you infuse energy into something, you make it grow. You lit the fire. So if you would, for example, have a cancer tumor, you can make that grow. If you're not used to working with healing energy, and if you're not properly trained, then even if you have the best intents, you have to learn how to perceive what is needed, and there are different ways to be able to understand what is good or not in a situation. But at different times, in different situations, different things, different kinds of healing would be needed. So yeah. Therefore, also, I am a little bit skeptic to get healing myself even from someone, because I wouldn't know if they actually know what they're doing. But on the other hand, I have the ability to know what to let in or not in that sense also. So, but anyways, yeah. I was going to not sound scary. I never thought about saying it like I did that in that brutal way, but yeah, as I was trying to remember the other day what I was called, like brutally, ruthlessly honest, but also luckily so far everyone who have called me that also know that I'm very kind, that they see me as maybe some see me actually as the kindest person they have met. But one of them anyways, even though I'm pretty honest, yeah. But yeah, and back to the voodoo, because also many people, I think, connect black magic with voodoo. And since I work with some of the voodoo cards and stuff, I would like to also mention that voodoo was originally a healing practice from sub-Saharan Africa, and it was in Haiti that it started to be used to harm one's foes, particularly these ruthless slave owners. They needed to protect themselves, and I don't know if I could blame them. I don't know, I have not been in every situation there is. I cannot say for sure how I would react in every situation. Since if you have the abilities if you understand the power you have, and we all do have this, not everyone know how to work it, luckily you could say, but I think it's very difficult for anyone to say what you would do in every situation there was. If I would have to protect a small child, if I would, I don't know to what length I would go. I would hope that my compassion is bigger. I would really hope. I'm not sure, but I am sure that I would consult my guides in the spirit world, let them guide me. I try to always listen to their guidance. Sometimes I go my own way and stumble on, but I'm sure in situations that may be needed or whatever, I would get to know that, and also I believe that they would protect me in other kinds of ways as well. But yeah, and sometimes, yeah, there comes a times when it's time to totally let go as well. So who knows? But anyway, and I will talk a little bit about the color black also, because of the whole calling it black magic and what that can mean and so on. But just like pretty generally, but. In medieval times, black, red, and white described alchemy, and also oftentimes nowadays in magical practices it can be related to initiation and so on. So, yeah. And of course also in psychology, colors and symbols and dreams and so on and so forth have a strong meaning. I won't go into that. I don't know a whole lot about that either, but is it? But yeah, as for basic magic, as you may all have heard, probably, but I don't know what you listen to on here. But anyways, there is a lot out there. But the base of it, it's like using your imagination, focusing on what you want and how you get it, or just a result of getting it, visualizing it detailed, as clear as you can, if possible see it. But even if you imagine it without being able to see it, it's even more important, I think, that you connect the feeling to it. But oftentimes that is more, it comes with seeing it, because that is often what we perceive as real, the things we see. So that therefore it's good to practice visualization if you want to work magic. I mean, to be able to really see, and also project. But anyways, and you can also draw, if so, draw pictures and so on. And this kind of magic is called sympathetic magic. And yeah, and that's the same thing there. You can, it depends on you, what purposes you have. It works the same. It have the same effect. Well, depending on how motivated you are towards that goal. But it doesn't, I mean, the energy and the methods themselves, they are the same, whether you go for something positive, so to speak, or something harmful, healing or harmful. So, and it can be through ignorance, and it can be through intent. It just, many people don't know that they can harm a lot with energy if their intents are good. And actually black and white, and back to that, are not colors like blue, green, red. White is a combination of all the colors of the visible spectrum of light, and black is the absence of that spectrum of white, and also of white as well. So white is in the integration of all the visible forms of radiance, and black is an absence of radiance. So it's like the void. Yeah. And this idea of white and black magic, historically, at least from what I've digged, comes from Persia. Are the basic ideas for calling it white magic and black magic. And it talked about that you don't need to believe it in it to make it work. I mean, you don't need to participate for it to have an effect. I've seen that many times, so it really can help. It actually, if your energy, you who work the magic, if that is not as strong a magnet, if you would say, then probably it would help if the other one you work with or on, let's say, that they have the same focus or intent and openness on what it is. Because that would add energy instead of it pulling in different directions. But you really don't need that if you know how to work your mind. I mean, if you have if you have practiced a lot and have a strong ability, you do not need the other one's participation for it to work, or them to believe it. It works anyways. So, yeah. So magic done for good purpose is called white magic, and those done for evil purposes are called black magic most of the time. But as I began to say there, these terms come from early Persian concepts of good and evil. Zarathustra, decided that of all the many until then good spirits or Devi, there was actually only one who was all good. And this was Ahura Mazda, the sun, the light. If you have an all-good deity, you need an all-evil opposite. You cannot have white unless you have the black as a contrast and so. So that role was given to Ahriman, the darkness, and the other minor Devi became the devils. And so this concept of all good and all bad was picked up later in Mithraism and then moved west into Christianity. Later on, and quite a way later on, I guess, right? I don't know if the timeline's there, but I do know that, for example, these three wise men following the star, finding like the Jesus child in that, and so on and so forth. That's the whole story is about Mithras. It's a way older story and so on. So, anyways, there are many of those that are mixed into new things. And when it comes to that, by the way, I don't know how long I've been talking, so I don't know when I have to stop, but I will just continue now. When it comes to the Christian faith that I do have also in some sort of way, which is impossible for others to grasp sometimes, but to me, these beings, let's say, for example, Jesus, is not limited. He is beyond limits, which means that he's so great, and the only reason he what can I say? This is just my perception. I'm not saying that I have any truth to reveal. It's just my perception for now. I believe that the way he comes through, I mean, if people need to perceive him in a very limited form to be able to connect and to be able to reach their hearts, if you say, then, and the divine, then he would be that for them, that what they need, until that can hopefully maybe grow. I don't know. But that's my view of it. But to me, and to, I guess, to, let's say, himself, that's just not, he's beyond those limits. That is not needed. Those frames are beyond what he is. It's difficult to use words for something that is beyond limits, though. He really. But anyways, but that's, I can connect with that energy as well as if it would be called Mithras, or that these, that these myths and different stories and so on are picked and changed, so on and so forth, doesn't mean that necessarily the first one that was told was the ever truest, and you have to call it by that name or whatever. It's a connection of, I mean, when you connect with an entity as strong as this one is, for me anyway, to me, the connection is to me the most important thing. It's not about what is written and whatever some common group would perceive as the right thing to do or believe or whatever. To me, that I feel like I feel very confirmed and very happy in that. Yeah. So So to me, that's not a conflict either. It may have been at some time. I mean, I never actually doubted, because I had so strong experiences of that connection too. So I never actually doubted that. I doubted people's how we have twisted things sometimes to gain power over each other, or and so on, and use fear to do so and so on. So whatever have been written here and there and so on, I'm not that have not been very important to me anytime really. But as I said, the techniques or the practices to heal and to harm is identical. So therefore, you don't really need to. I mean, if you meet someone that is a super bright healer or whatever, it really means also that they have the same capacity to do harm as the worst one. That doesn't mean that they would, though. And sometimes those with the brightest, shine, if you would say, is not the ones who have the purest intents. You need to see beyond to be able to discern those things, honestly. But we all know that. Otherwise, it would have been pretty much easier, right? So, but anyway, yeah. You can transmit toxic energy even if you don't mean to, if you're poorly trained or so on. But as I said, yeah, Reiki have that built-in protection, which is good. Many other healing modalities, when you use your own energy and so on, even magic, is more. There is more risks involved there when it comes to mixing energies up, picking up others, and so on. Yeah. So what else do I want to say here? I have to stop, I think, soon. I never know how long I've talked. Yeah. And also, I don't know, because I'm really have been very, very inspired also by Tibetan Buddhism, and they train themselves to those detailed pictures. Sometimes, what are they called? Mandalas? Well, anyways, often with their goddesses, god figures and so on, are very, very detailed, and they train themselves to learn how to visualize them fully with the details and everything. And I mean, you can do that with some more simple, maybe, picture and so on to practice also. But usually it's easier to start with just colors, or then simple shapes, background, and so on. But yeah, that's a good practice when it comes to. Well, I don't know why I said that really, but anyways. And also when it comes to this sending love and all that it could not harm, I mean, there is nothing that is as harmful and painful and hurt as much as sometimes things related to love. So even when we send love and supposedly pure and holy, we can really cause harm. We need to learn how energy works, because it's not fluff like that. It's not nothing. It's those who don't understand the efficiency of it, those who don't have the skills, that may see it that way, or that they haven't trained them or don't know them fully, or so on. And that's the danger. It's actually less dangerous to pretend or whatever to be a psychic or medium or whatever than a healer. Because some people really want to, some people want to be something because they feel small, and even in all areas of life, of course, but also as in this spiritual, if we would call it then community, but and then therefore want to go beyond where they have actually reached, what they really do know, to kind of impress or to become even in their own eyes, someone, and that's really, really dangerous. So don't work with energy medicine or energy healing unless you get a training. And sometimes you can get that if you have a strong connection to the spirit world. You don't need to get that training always from another human. But you absolutely need to understand and differentiate and so on with energies to be sure not to harm. Yeah, and oftentimes the black magic that happens, that is the black magic that we cause ourselves. That's the one that happens most of the time because we think negative thoughts and hold on to negative beliefs, and that keeps us, block us from our personal power, and also cause havoc and chaos in our immune system and so on, so we can get sick. So we ourselves, we need to be really in touch with our own selves. And there is also another reason not to do it, is because if we would work that kind of bad intent magic, we need to work from a lower level of vibration, and that is really heavy to be in when you do that workings. So it's not very healthy to do even. Anyways, so I don't know when I have to stop, but I will read a few things more here about black, what it can represent and so on. Wisdom of the unknown, or what is yet to be learned, or has yet to be learned. Return energy to the sender, divination, protection, dark goddesses, chaos, time, the first stage of a work. I may say a few things many times. At the beginning of creation, north, winter, rebirth, wisdom, the number 8 actually, and I saw that in connection to someone recently. I didn't know that then. Anyway, infinity, destroy bad habits, rest, power, the void, to ward off negativity, letting go of old values, authority, rules, order, time. Yeah, time I said. Karma, wisdom, the night, the earth, death sometimes. Yeah, it can mean many, many more things. But so when you work generally in magic with black, it doesn't have to be anything evil involved at all. As for when you are clothed in black or so, and it can be a protection or anything. You often burn a black candle and a white together to bring balance to magical workings also. And magic done with black and white patterns promotes balance within ourselves and in the world around us. The color black is also a representation of the place between the worlds, in between. Not here, not there, but in between. Where we can access the qualities and power of both worlds to reach our desired goals then. And black can also be a promise that you are soon to know something you didn't know before. Okay, I don't know how long I've talked, so I will have to stop now, but much, much love, and I will talk to you soon.